Okay, hi everyone. As I said, welcome to our 8th GM of Winter Quarter. Today we have a very special takeover by our fabulous outreach committee. They'll be discussing a lot of professional development events, how to get into research, and some other, pre-health shadowing opportunities. So I'll pass it on to the outreach events team.
Hey everyone, today I'm going to be going over resume building, and I'm basically going to be going over a basic overview on how to construct a resume and more. So before I go into things, it's going to be helpful to know exactly what a resume is. So a resume is simply a document that job and internship applicants use to summarize their work experience, educational background, and special skills. Next, I'm going to go over a few points. Now that you have a sense of what a resume is, I'd like to go over some basic steps to consider before and while you are making a resume. So first of all, gather any and all relevant information that could be put on your resume. This first step should be done before you start writing it. This way you don't forget anything and will have all the details easily accessible by your side. Second, you should go through the different format types and determine which works best to showcase your skills and fits best for what you're going for, whether that be a job or lab position. Some common formats are chronological, functional, which is a focus on skills, and targeted, which is targeted specifically to the job you are going for. Lastly, here are some important things to consider for resumes commonly done by undergrads like us. Things like maximum 1 page length, avoiding including high school activities, including relevant coursework, using action words, and the most important of them all, make sure it's easy and clear to read. And next, I have some example resumes. On the right, we have an example of a typical job resume. On the left, we have a typical of a job resume. As you can see, it highlights the relevant information such as work history and skills that are relevant to this person's job opening. And the resume on the right would be an example of your typical 1 page resume done by a college student. This will encompass all things accomplished during this person's college years. Remember that yours doesn't have to look like this, and these are just some examples to help see what the end product should kind of look like.
Hey everyone, so we'll now start covering the main aspects of writing a cover letter so you can best represent yourself when applying to certain positions or opportunities. So, basically what to include in cover letter. So when deciding on what to include, there are 6 main aspects that you should consider. First off, you want to make sure to include a heading that includes your contact information, first and last name, formatted address, and date of writing the letter. This lets the reader know who you are and provides them with some basic information for any possible follow-up requests. Following the header, you should also begin your cover letter by including a salutation that starts off the body by addressing your target recruiter with a business formal tone. It's important to address the individual or company that will be evaluating your applications, as it formally shows that you know who the application is addressed to. In the main body of your cover letter, make sure to include the who, what, and why by focusing on introducing yourself, your relevant educational qualifications, the position you are applying for, and why you are drawn to that specific position. You should also include 2 to 3 qualifications that best highlight your abilities for that specific position, while also making sure not to reiterate your resume since it can get repetitive. Throughout your cover letter, make sure to personalize your application by connecting your qualifications to the specific position you are applying for, and also make sure to include your best personality traits that showcase your passion. By doing this, you can leave an impressionable impact on your reader amongst a plethora of other applicants. Finally, make sure to end your cover letter by including your contact information, thanking your audience, and providing additional times that you are available to connect for any future steps that might be necessary. In terms of some formatting tips for your cover letter, make sure to have a 1-page cover letter with single space spacing throughout the text. Also make sure to be concise throughout that letter, and make sure to follow the font type, font size, and overall format of your resume alongside your cover letter. So make sure you have the right colors and right themes in that cover letter that kind of go along with your resume. In regards to your header, include your contact information, address, and other information while keeping your name at the top where it's easy to find. Within your letter, make sure to have 3 to 5 body paragraphs that are separated in sections with an extra line for readability so it looks a bit more organized. At the end, make sure to properly address the hiring manager or evaluating audience with their name and title. And finally, make sure to proofread your cover letter and check for any spelling or grammar mistakes. And then here, this is just an example cover letter. So this kind of covers what we went over. So you have your heading and you have your body and your audience, so your hiring manager's name, and at the end you have your closing as well.
Awesome. So I know earlier on last quarter, we did a, I guess, research lab tour where two of our members were able to share about their experiences. Here's some more tips, tricks, and advice for how to approach research in undergrad. Okay, so what steps are involved in finding a research lab? First, you want to make a list of 5 to 10, I guess, PIs on campus. Two, you want to draft your email, which can include your previous, if you have any previous experience with research, maybe things you're involved with on campus, and notably why you're interested in that researcher's lab. Third, hopefully you get a response from them saying, hey, let's do a brief Zoom call, maybe a formal or informal interview about why you would be a good fit for the researcher's laboratory. So that's going to be included in the interview preparation. Okay, so knowing your message, you want to make sure, like I said, your email to the professor of interest can get your message across in a very concise manner. Professors are very busy, and sending a long email will likely dissuade them from reading its entirety. Although I would say it is helpful to, be informative in telling about your experiences and why you're interested in that lab. But I've definitely sent very long emails that I spent, an hour writing and maybe get like an okay, which is great. But definitely be, I guess, considerate of how long your message is.
All right, so delving in a little bit deeper about what your email should include overall. So you want to make sure that you have your personal introduction. Definitely keep this part super short. It just needs to be like your name, your major, your year, since the body of your email will kind of contain the rest of the content that you want to talk about. You also want to talk about your interests. One really important thing about when you email professors is that you want them to be able to see why you're interested in their lab and not like any other lab on campus. And you want them to see like, hey, I'm going to be committed to your lab because this is what specifically intrigues me. So make sure that comes across. This could be through like your previous experiences or stuff that you're already researching. So that's just some tips about that. Next up, you also want to include your goals. So this could be like career oriented, maybe like future research experience oriented, just like how do you anticipate this experience fitting into like your overarching goals in life, basically. You also want to include your CV and cover letter, kind of like the tips that we went over for the CV earlier. Make sure to keep it short, 1 page is good. Try not to go over a page. Your cover letter isn't going to be really necessary for emailing all research labs, just because whatever you would put on a cover letter kind of is what goes into the body of the email. But I know sometimes labs kind of want like a formal PDF cover letter. So it just kind of depends on what they're looking for and how you're applying to them. Next up, you have your transcript. Again, not all labs will require a transcript. So, they might ask for a transcript, and then if they do, you can obviously submit one, but it's not totally necessary to submit a transcript when you first reach out to a professor. But it is just good to include to show that, hey, I've taken these courses, this is like the information that I've gained from them, and this is what I could possibly apply in your lab. And finally, you want to include your relevant experience or awards, that it's just like previous experience and commitments show that you have developed some certain skills and that you can work in a team and things like that. So it's good to include those so that they know that, hey, you're capable of working in a team and you would be a positive asset in our lab. And then going on to the next slide, here's some other resources that are potentially helpful to look into when you're looking for research positions. The Undergraduate Research Center is great. They have sample cover letters, sample CVs. I personally looked at their sample CVs. I thought those were like really helpful in formatting my CV, as well as like figuring out what types of experiences to put, because sometimes you can't include everything that you've done. You kind of have to pick the most important ones. And you can also see open research openings, I think. in the undergraduate research center. So that is something to look into, especially if you're actively looking for a position. You can kind of like sort by the most recent posts and stuff like that. So you kind of know which positions are still active, and you could potentially reach out to those PIs. Another one to look into is the Undergraduate Writing Center. I know that they help out with like writing your cover letter, writing emails to professors, so they could be really, really helpful in that. And finally, you have your UCLA Career Center. I know that they offer like resume reviews, and they have like interview prep classes and things like that sometimes. So if you need help in like any of those areas, definitely look into these 3 resources.
Absolutely. Thank you, Samia. Also, a great comment by RT says that in your email to your potential PI, definitely include a paragraph that shows you've read, recent paper or work of that researcher, and that you don't have to be a PhD level of understanding, but somewhat what's going on in the lab. Also, number 2, if you're applying to any like research programs, all of these centers are really helpful in curating your essay as well. Alrighty, moving on to interviews.
Okay, so the next part is about interviews and how you can be ready to make that good first impression. So basically, the first thing you want to do is make sure that you actually know the company. Like what was being said before, when you actually show interest, it definitely helps. The first reason is because you can answer potential questions about your future, because they might ask you, why did you apply? How do the company goals align with your interests? And like, where do you see yourself in the future, especially with the company? And then another reason is so you can ask questions about the company, such as how your experience can fit into the position and what you are expected to achieve in the next 6 to 12 years. And again, bringing up any relevant information that you might have found is always helpful, and they're always going to appreciate it. So the next thing you want to do is consider what kind of interview you've been asked to do, because there's phone call interviews, which is rare, in-person interviews, and then now there's Zoom interviews, which are pretty common. So the most simple one is the phone interview, where basically you're going to want to make sure you're at a place where you're heard well without any noise distractions, or if you're in like an apartment or a house, just to tell your family you're going to be doing an interview. You want to speak in a clear and enthusiastic voice, and you might want to have notes in front of you of things you want to bring up and discuss. The next one is a Zoom interview, where again, you're going to want to find a place with good lighting and audio where you can be seen and heard well. Definitely dress appropriately, at least the top half. Show enthusiasm in your words and actions when answering questions, especially by looking at the interviewer, looking at the camera. And then you may want to keep notes in another tab if you do feel nervous, but try not to refer to them very often. And then finally, you have the in-person interview, where you're going to want to have pretty much the same key principles. You want to dress well, come in with enthusiasm, definitely prepare for questions beforehand and have basic structures of what you want to say memorized. Definitely plan out your travel to ensure you get there early so you're not racing the clock or showing up late. And then notice how the interviewer reacts with body language, and see if they're confused or where they're interested, and you can kind of elaborate on what you're saying there. Yeah, so these next 2 slides are just a bunch of questions that you want to be ready for. So these might be things you want to look at beforehand and gain at least knowledge of what you would say if they asked you these questions. So yeah, it's just this slide and the next slide. Oh yeah. And then finally, you want to answer using the STAR method. Basically, these like big questions, like they might ask you what's a complication you've had in your work or some challenge you've overcome. So basically, you want to describe the situation or the challenge that you face, describe the task and what you did in the situation, the action, so kind of what you did to overcome that challenge, and then the result of what happened after and how that benefited you.
Hi, everyone. So the curriculum committee, oh, sorry, Tiffany, you can go ahead.
Go ahead. I was just going to introduce y'all, but take it up.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. Okay, so next up, we're going to be going to ways to get involved in our community. We're the curriculum team, also a part of the outreach committee. So we will be going over some tutoring and mentorship ideas in case if you were looking for places to get involved on campus and outside of campus.
Okay, hello everyone. So Step Up Tutoring is an organization that connects a tutor slash mentor to children from grades three to six from underprivileged communities. And you basically connect on Zoom one-on-one, and you help them with their math and English homework. This kind of extends to, like beyond their homework as well, because you kind of want to form like that kind of mentorship role in the student's life. So you can also talk about like their interests, something fun that they did that week in school, kind of things like that. You basically connect 2 hours per week for a minimum of 12 weeks. However, this schedule is very flexible and it's really based around like your schedule because they try to match you with a student that is also requesting around the same times that you are. So yeah, so it's super flexible and you really don't need any experience because they provide you with the resources, training and guidance, all that you'll need to be a good tutor slash mentor. So why should you consider joining? So basically the main reason is you get to make a positive impact in child's education and overall their life trajectory. So studies show that kids with college educated tutors are more likely to go to college, and kids who fall behind in school often have a really hard time with catching up on their own, especially during COVID times and all these young kids being on Zoom. A lot of them are actually either like a grade below or several grades below their the grade that they're in. So Step Up Tutoring just really tries to go in there and kind of catch up these kids on a lot of the concepts that they kind of missed out on. And so then aside from that, you get to foster a meaningful relationship with students while also personally growing. So you get to develop your own leadership, communication, management skills, and you also get to gain a new perspective on the education system as a whole from like a really unique position of being a tutor and a mentor. And you also get to see students' progress and feel like you're actually making a difference. And then also you get to earn a lot of community service hours. So yeah, so I've included their website so you can learn more about Step Up Tutoring and apply if you're interested. I'm currently in the like onboarding process of this. So if y'all have any questions about that, just let me know.
Okay, and so now I'll be introducing a little bit more about Brain Awareness Week, which is kind of an event that's become, I've seen, more popular in the recent years. So Brain Awareness Week is basically a campaign to foster public interest and support for brain science. And I know that here at UCLA, it's definitely popular within a lot of organizations. And it includes neuroscience outreach that can include reaching out to K-12 students and introducing them to medical research facilities. And also, it's also very commonly incorporated in professional organizations. So one such Brain Awareness Week event that I would like to highlight is the one that's hosted by the Brain Research Institute here at UCLA. And they do this through Project Brainstorm, which I believe is actually it's one of the options for neuroscience capstone, which is it's a quarter-long course. And during their Brain Awareness Week events, the students that are running it teach K-12 students about the brain, and the younger students are able to participate in hands-on activities and listen to faculty presentations. And the Brain Research Institute at UCLA really encourages low opportunity K-12 students to come to Gonda to learn more about brain structure and to participate in hands-on activities. And aside from this event specifically, any group can actually apply to host a Brain Awareness Week event, and the organization that runs the Brain Awareness Week as a whole, the Dana Foundation, actually provides grants and resources to anyone who's interested in hosting an event of their own.
Yeah, so another way to get involved in the UCLA community is the Alumni Mentor Program. This is a program where you can connect with UCLA alumni from all different fields, and you're able to kind of go into their website and put your interests and your future goals, and they kind of help you match with alumni who can match your interests and give you more information, and just someone that you can connect with outside of campus. And so personally, I did this fall quarter, and I currently have a mentor who's working in medicine because that's one of my future goals. And they also host several events throughout the quarter. For example, For the men's basketball game, they hosted a watch party and a dinner. And I think because of COVID, they haven't been able to do as many, but I'm sure there's going to be more events in the future like this where you're able to kind of go to these events with your mentors, meet other mentors and other people who are being mentored. So this is just a great opportunity to make connections with your peers and also alumni to help kind of guide you towards your goals and just learn more about different people's interests.
Okay, so next up, we will be discussing Hearts Over Hands. So Hearts Over Hands aims to pair currently enrolled university students with children from families who are adversely impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic in order to form lasting, stable child-mentor relationships. So volunteers are considered as big sibs or like big siblings, and they meet with their little sibs through a weekly virtual sessions for homework help, tutoring, and general mentorship assistance and guidance. The children are ages from 6 to 16, and little sibs are spread across the United States and internationally as well. There are also virtual summer camps in which children can learn about a variety of subjects and other enrichment activities. And this is really impactful because you can help children feel academically and emotionally supported despite hardships of the pandemic, and you can even create friends from across the globe. Next up, we have the Mentorship Program at UCLA. The purpose of this program is to connect UCLA students to youth of North Hollywood from ages 7 to 17 and provides the opportunity to provide one-on-one mentorship and the ability to foster a year-long relationship. So by being a part of this program, you can take initiative and create a community here at UCLA. You can build a relationship and lifelong impact on a student by becoming more than a tutor and instead a role model as well as a support system. Like I mentioned, it is a year-long program in which UCLA students specifically mentors an elementary high school student, and you get to participate in retreats and exciting events to meet other mentors. They have specific events such as like beach retreats and even like amusement parks. You can attend events with your mentees such as beach days, born outside of simply the classroom setting. You also get to provide resources and advice which can propel a student's lifelong career. And then in order to get involved, you can visit mentorship at ucla.org.
Awesome. So moving on, we're going to be talking about medically focused opportunities.
Yeah, so the first thing I want to talk about is some virtual shadowing opportunities. I know that a lot of us here are at hand are pre-med or some form of pre-health. And these are two shadowing opportunities that I personally use and have talked to like a bunch of other people. And the first one is e-shadowing, and it was created by Dr. Ryan Gray, and it occurs Monday every week on his website. And what's really good about this site is that you can track your progress through quizzes, and they have a wide variety of physicians presenting on their careers, and the link is attached below. It's important to note though that the shadowing sessions expire at the end of every week, so you really have to like stay on top of it if you're committed to this form. There's also pre-health shadowing, which was started by a UC Merced student. So this also occurs every week. But the good thing about this is that you can watch it whenever you want and take the quiz like whenever you want to. And you can also find the shadowing sessions on YouTube. They also have a wide variety of healthcare professionals, not just physicians. And the website is also live. But yeah.
Alrighty. Ashley, would you like to provide any conclusions?
No, thank you so much, guys, for attending our outreach committee. So takeover for this week's GM. And we hope you found this information useful, and we'll send the presentation to our Slack channel for future reference if needed. And thank you to Ellen, who also helped facilitate making this presentation, who's not here right now.
Awesome. If everyone could give a hand to our wonderful outreach committee. Really comprehensive presentation. And like I said, we'll be including this in the Slack for you to reference later on. Alrighty.